start with a few easy examples and with one-digit divisors, and then quickly move on to some harder examples with two-digit divisors. We'll start out with 37 divided by 8. Now, no matter what, your first number will always go into the division house. So I'm going to write down a 37, and this is what we call the division house, divided by 8. And all that means is that we're breaking up 37 into 8 equal parts. So what we first do is we're trying to divide 8 into 3. We can't do that, so we're dividing 8 into 37. Always put a little marker, what we call a caret, above the 7. And I'm going to put a little underline here, and that shows that you are definitely going to have a one-digit quotient. Your quotient is your answer in a division problem. So let's divide 8 into 37. 8 times 4 is 32, so I'm going to put a 4 up there. 4 times 8 is 32, and then we're going to subtract. 37 minus 32 is 5. Now, here's how I like my students to write the remainder. I like them to write the remainder as a fraction. So I'm going to write 5 over, you write the remainder over the divisor, which is 8. Now, here's why we do that. If you were to do 37 divided by 8 on a calculator, you would get this answer, 4.625. Now, 0.625 or 625 thousandths doesn't look a lot like 5/8, but it's actually the decimal equivalent. Because 5/8, if you convert it to a decimal, try it with your calculator if you want to, 5 divided by 8 gives you 0.625. And I have another video on how to convert fractions to decimals. Still, another way to check your division is to actually multiply your divisor, which is 8, times your quotient, which is 4, plus your remainder, which is 5. And by the way, 4 isn't your entire quotient. Your entire quotient is 4 5/8. But you just multiply by the whole number portion. Now, 8 times 4 is 32, plus 5 is 37. Notice that that is your dividend. The dividend is the number that goes in the division house. So, by undoing the division with multiplication, you end up right back where you started with. Another way to think about that is, what is division? Anyways, it's division and subtraction. Those are the operations that you're mostly doing. So you can undo division and subtraction with multiplication and addition. So multiply, then add. Let's try another quick example before we move on to harder ones. Let's see. Let's try 67 divided by 4. Okay? Now, 4 can go into 6, so we're going to put a little caret above the 6. Now we know that we're going to have a two-digit quotient in this problem. 4 goes into 6 once. 1 times 4 is 4. We subtract 6 minus 4 and get 2. The next thing you do is you bring down the next single digit in your dividend. Now that's a 7. Now we're going to divide 4 into 27. 6 times 4 is 24. And 27 minus 24 is 3. You always want to divide into that number that you have in your dividend, and you always want to divide the biggest number, divide into as many times as you possibly can. Now, there's nothing else to bring down, so your remainder is 3, or 3/4. I don't like to write the remainder this way. Sometimes kids will write the answer this way, 16 with a R, for R representing the remainder. I believe I remember being taught that way as a kid, that means you can't finish the problem and there's something left over. And that makes no sense. Why we would even do division anyways if we can't finish the problem? This is the precise answer, 16 3/4, because 16 3/4 is also equal to 16.75. That's the answer you would get if you divided with your calculator, since 3/4 is equal to 75 cents, just like 3/4 is equal to 75 cents, and 75 cents is 75 hundredths. So let's move on to some two-digit. Okay, here we see an example, 678 divided by 21. We're still going to follow the exact same procedure. It just gets a little bit trickier to make your, I'll say, estimates for how many times the divisor is going to divide into your dividend. So first we think, what is the smallest number 21 can go into? Can it go into 6? No, but it is smaller than 67. So we're going to put a caret above the 7 in 67. Now, an easy way to think of this is, and I'll write it, I'm going to make a mark with a different color. You can think of it as, you can just pay attention to the 2 in 21. And if we ignored one place in 21, we can also ignore one place in the dividend that we're dividing into. We're dividing into 67, so we can kind of ignore the 7 and then estimate how many times does 2 go into 6. Well, 2 goes into 6 3 times, so we're going to try that. Go back to my other color. So we're going to try 3. Now, 21 times 3 is 63. 7 minus 3 is 4. Now, can we bring something down? Yes, we can bring down the 8. Now we could think again. I won't make the mark this time. You should have seen what I was doing. Now we're dividing 21 into 48. Let me show you something else I didn't show you before, but I've seen teachers do this, and I think it makes a lot of sense, is when they subtract, they also bring down this bar that kind of makes another division house. That kind of helps kids remember their steps sometimes. You don't have to do it, but it might help you just to realize what you are dividing into. You're dividing 21 into 48. And you could think of it as, how many times does 2 go into 4? Well, 2 goes into 4 twice, so it's probably 2. So let's just check it. 21 times 2 is 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. It's 42, and that's pretty close. 48 minus 42 is 6. Is there anything else to bring down? No. So our remainder is 6, or 6 over 21. Let's try another example with something a little bit bigger and trickier to make our estimates with. Let's try a 37 into, let's try 249. You know what? Let's make it really hard. 2,497. Okay? Well, we're going to try to divide 37 into 2. We can't. We can't divide 37 into 24, but we can divide 37 into 249. So I'm going to put my caret right there. That means that's where the first place should go in my quotient, and I'm going to have a 2-digit quotient plus the possible remainder we may have. Same way to do your estimation. Fastest way to do it is to just think, if we ignored the 9 and ignored the 7, estimate by thinking, how many times does 3 go into 24? So we can try 8. Might be a little bit too big since this is a 37 and not a 30, but we'll try 8 by multiplying 37 times 8. Something else to mention is whenever you do your multiplication guesses off to the side, don't erase them, because you might need them in the next step. 7 times 8 is 56. 8 times 3 is 24. Plus 5 is 29. And as I guessed, that's a little bit too big, but that's okay. We're going to try a little bit smaller. 37 times 7. Get a lot of multiplication practice. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 4 is 25. Still too big. So we're going to try one more. 37 times 6. 6 times 7 is 42. 6 times 3 is 18. Plus 4 is 22. There we go, just right. If first you don't succeed, try again. So we have a 6 and we have 2, 22. Now we're going to subtract. 9 minus 2 is 7. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 minus 2 is nothing, so it's just 27. I'll do like I did in the last problem and bring down this division bar to make another division house. Now 37 can't go into 27, so we're going to bring down this 7. And now we see 277. Well, let's look at what we've already multiplied. Too big. Look at this. 37 times 7 is 259. That's 277. So it looks like that came in handy after all. So I'm going to write this 7 right here. 37 times 7 is 259. And now we have to borrow to subtract. Borrow from the 7, make it a 6, which makes this 7 a 17. 17 minus 9 is 8. 6 minus 5 is 1. There's nothing left to bring down, so your remainder is 18 over 37. If you'd like to check that with a calculator, you do 37 times 67, add your remainder, which is 18, and you will get 2,497. So it checks, and it is correct. I'm going to try one more example if you come across problems where you have to put zeros in your dividends that sometimes confuse kids. Okay, one of the most common mistakes that I'll see kids make is when they end up having to have a zero somewhere in their quotient and they mess up or forget it or their work is too squished. One way to remedy that is by turning your paper sideways if you're using line paper and then using those tablet lines as columns and writing one digit in each column. This will help you out tremendously. The other way is to always use your caret, and you'll know beforehand exactly how many digits should be in your quotient. And basically neatness and not rushing. Well, let's try this example out. 36 into 7,356. Now 36 cannot divide into 7, but it can divide into 73. Now, our estimation strategy from before, we can just think of it as 3 into 7 by ignoring the 6 and the 3 to help you make your first guess. 3 goes into 7 twice, so we're going to try 36 times 2. Now we have 2 times 6 is 12, 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, so we get 72. Subtract, get 1. Whoops, I'll bring down that division house like I talked about before. Now, I know that we have a 2 here. And I also know that since the caret goes here, I'm going to have something in my quotient above the 3, above the 5, and above the 6. So I'm going to have a 3-digit answer. I have a 1 here. Now I'm going to bring down the 5. Whenever you bring something down in division, you must divide into it. So remember that. So since I brought down this 5, we must divide into 15. We must divide 36 into 15. But you might be thinking, but we can't. 36 doesn't go into 15. You're right, we can't. And another number that represents we can't in math is 36 goes into 15 0 times. It goes in less than 1 time. So we're going to represent that as a 0. Okay? So 36 times 0 is 0. Just to follow your procedures, 15 minus 0 is 15. I'll bring down my little division bar. Now I'm going to bring down the 6. Now, 36 went into 15 less than 1 time. We represented that with a 0. Then we brought down the 6. Now 36, we're going to divide into 156. So let's make our guess. Well, we can ignore, if we ignore the 6 in 156 and the 6 in 36, we can think of how many times does 3 go into 15. Well, 3 goes into 15 5 times. It's probably a little too much, but let's just do the work anyways for example's sake. 36 times 5. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 3 is 18. Too big, so we're going to try 4. 36 times 4. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 3 is 12. Plus 2 is 14. 144, and that's just right. So we have 144. 6 minus 4 is 2. 5 minus 4 is 1. There's nothing left to bring down, so our remainder is, let me write that 4 there, our remainder is 12 over 36. Reminder to check 36 times 204 plus 12 must equal 7,356 on your calculator for it to be correct. And that is correct. Okay, if you have any other questions or you want more examples, just shoot me an email or